Back again, my people. Welcome back to the channel. And I am certainly tired of listening to transfer updates that are really no update. It's been day after day, week after week, where we've heard the same thing, and it's really not going anywhere. So until I see the player holding the Liverpool shirt or the official announcement from Liverpool, basically, I don't really care. So let's discuss something different, guys. The transfer thing or whole rumor thing, for me, it's a bit boring. Let's talk about something more interesting or other things that are more interesting. All right, I'm going to do a season review of Liverpool's team, and I'm going to concentrate on the midfield only. Check out my previous video on the defense. So today I'm going to start with Gravenberch in the midfield. Now, at the beginning of the season or prior to the start of the season, we had no idea where Gravenberch was going to play his role in the team. But Arne Slot during preseason started to experiment with where he wanted Gravenberch to play and how he wanted to use him. And he started trying him in the deep line role as the number 6. And I think in preseason, he showed signs that he could actually do something. The only question that remained was whether or not he can do it for the entirety of the season, for a 38 game season, or even adding other competitions, a 50-game season. So Gravenberch really did well, especially at the beginning. He started really strongly. He was able to use his body to turn opponents, try and progress the ball, and turn build-ups into transition plays just by the way he took the ball on the turn and cut through the opponent's midfield. At some point, the Gravenberch turn was not working anymore because teams kind of figured out how to defend that way of playing. So they, instead of getting a bit closer to him, they gave him a bit more space so that even when he turned, there was going to be someone trying to stop him from progressing the ball. So he kind of limited his limited his ability to turn with the ball and convert build-up play into transitions. So I think that kind of also affected his performance a little bit. Aside that, there was a bit of tiredness creeping in because he was one of the least rotated players in the team. So I think it was him, Van Dijk, and Salah who were the least rotated players in the team, and that affected him quite a bit because he was playing week in, week out every 3 days. And for a player who hadn't played on a regular basis in previous seasons, that was always going to be an issue for him. So Gravenberch played really well. But why did he do so well in that position? My theory about why Gravenberch actually survived and excelled in the deep line role for Liverpool is that he has the skill sets. He already had the skill sets. In fact, he had played in a similar position, but in a 2 at Ajax. So he was playing as the 8 in a 4-2-3-1 formation at Ajax. So even though he was the 8, he still had to perform some defensive duties. So it is something that he had done before, but maybe not to the level where he was expected to do it for Liverpool. That is for sure. So he had the skill sets. You can see his body frame. He has long legs, so that allows him to do big strides to try and catch up whenever he's beaten. He can also make slide tackles easily when you have long strides like that. He could also use those long strides to steal the ball from the opponent in a 50-50 scenario. So those were qualities that you need in order to do well as a defensive midfielder for Liverpool, and he already had those. I think the most surprising thing about his game this season was the fact that he was also very strong in the defense, in his duels, trying to win the ball back when Liverpool were out of possession. So that is something that I certainly didn't expect from him. And I think Arne Slot also indicated in one of his interviews that he was a bit surprised, he and his backroom staff, about the way Gravenberch was so strong in the duels, in winning possession and tackles, right? Now I'll move on to Soboslai. Gravenberg's analysis has been very long, so I'll keep the other ones short because I think in the midfield he was a standout player this season, especially based on our expectations of him as a player. On a whole, I think Maka was the best midfielder for us this season, but I think because we didn't have so much expectations for Gravenberg, he actually did very well. So I'll give him the midfielder of the year in my review. The next person is Soboslai. Now, Dominic Soboslai is someone we've seen from last season. His main characteristics is work rate. He's defensively strong as well. In the attack, he's able to help the attack with deep runs. He makes underlapping runs to help form triangles on the right side of the field with Salah and Trent in that right back position. So he's really sort of a facilitator. So even in club system where he was playing as an 8, you could see that he was doing similar things as what he did last season under Arne Slot. But the difference here is that in this particular system, he played almost as a 9 or a half 9 and a half 10. So even though he was playing in the attacking midfield position, he was at times playing as a number 9. Right, so the number 9 drops deep and then he runs beyond the number 9, the last defense, to try and receive the ball. A typical example is the goal we scored against Arsenal at Anfield in the return leg just before the season ended. So the ball that he received from Salah, he controlled and gave a cutback cross, or he passed the ball across the goal and Luis Diaz tapped it in. So that is an example of what I'm trying to talk about, that he actually played the role of a number 9 at times. At the same time, he played the role of a number 10 and even as a number 8 in that same system. So Szoboszlai was exceptional this season. His work rate was absolutely incredible. The way he could track back and keep running. For me, watching from the comfort of my couch, at times I felt tired for the guy because the way he was running up and down, sprint after sprint after sprint, it was just exceptional to watch. Now the next one is Maka. So Alexis Mac Allister is obviously a World Cup winner. You have to be exceptional to play such an important role as he did for Argentina in that World Cup win. He was very pivotal. So this is not one of those World Cup winners or players who win competitions by sitting on the bench or by playing a bit part, coming in here and there, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No, he was absolutely central to how Argentina played in that World Cup. So you could see right from there that this guy is an exceptional player. He has a temperament to play for a big team. He can handle expectations and he can give you 8 out of 10 performances on a weekly basis. He has no problem doing that, and that is exactly what he did. But because we've been a bit used to how Maka plays and how well he does, how smart he is on the ball, we kind of took it for granted. So there wasn't so much attention on Mac Allister, but I always think that he is the most important player in our midfield. He's a facilitator in terms of bringing the ball back from defense to midfield. He's the best at linking these two departments, the defense and the attack. He is so smart. He's one of the players who always takes the right decision. He knows exactly when to play the ball on the first touch. He knows when to take a touch first. He knows when to deceive the opponent in terms of whether to make the opponent think the ball is going left, even though he wants to play the ball right. He's so good at faking exactly what he wants to do, and his decision making is one of the best in our midfield. When he's not there, you can see the difference in terms of how we move the ball and how we pass the ball, even maintaining possession. I think because he is in the team, that is the reason why Liverpool is mostly able to control certain games that you might think would be difficult to control, right? So he's a player who helps with the possession play. If you want to keep possession, Maka is your guy. Everything has to go through him, and he would certainly not disappoint. Even on his bad day, it's a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. The next person is Jones. Curtis Jones this season did play well. I think he still has a level to go up to. At times he holds on to the ball a bit too long, which has been a criticism that many has leveled against him, and I think that is fair enough. He needs to learn from McAllister, players like McAllister, because he needs to know exactly when to hold on to the ball and when not to. And I think at times he confuses that. The game he played that stood out to me, I think there were two games. He played against Chelsea in that game at Anfield where we won 2-1. He scored the second goal. He also played very well in the first half. Even got a penalty for us for the first goal. Jones also played very well against Brighton in that comeback, that 2-1 comeback at Anfield. I think he came in from the bench, or maybe he started. I'm not sure, but he really stood out in those games. So Jones did well this season, but I do think that he needs to go up a gear if he wants to really stake a claim for a starting place in this midfield. Also, given that there are other players joining the team next season. The next one is Elliott. Harvey Elliott had, I would say, a disappointing season for me because I watched preseason and the way he was performing in preseason, I had the idea that he would have a big role to play in the season because I thought Anna Slot really trusted him. Anna Slot liked the way he plays. So I think even in certain games in preseason, he played the double 10 with Soboslai in some of the games. So we didn't have any number 9 in maybe one or two of those games, and he played as a double number 10. And those he really did well. He played in a very matured way. His decision making was always on point. I think maybe one of the reasons why Elliott didn't have the season that we all expected him to have, and maybe he expected himself to have, is because of the injury he got. Maybe a quarter through the season, or at the beginning of the season, I think he had an injury. So he went on the sideline for quite a bit and then came back in to the team. And after he had come back, we had a settled group in midfield. So it was very hard for him to break through. Now, Endo is a very interesting case in our midfield. I certainly thought that Endo should have gotten more playing time this season. I was extremely disappointed in the number of games he was given, even the number of substitute appearances that he got, because there were certain games that I thought we were winning anyway. So, for example, taking off Gravenberg and bringing in Elliott in the 70th minute wouldn't have changed anything. We would still have gone on to win the game because this guy is a first-team player. He showed 2 seasons ago that he can play week in, week out. He can play 3 days in a week. 2 games in a week, sorry. So I also think that in certain games where the midfielder we're playing against was a more combative midfield, we should have put Endo in there and maybe taking off Gravenberg or McAllister. Because the reason why I say that is for teams like Newcastle, when you meet that Newcastle midfield, you have players like Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, and this guy, Joelinton, right? These are combative midfielders. There is no flair in there. So you don't expect that these guys are going to give you any chance to try and play beautiful football, be smooth on the ball. So players like Gravenberg, who wants to be smooth on the ball, players like McAllister, he wants to be smooth on the ball, even Soboslai, right? So you need someone who is combative in that midfield. So I don't even care who you take out, but I think in games like that where we meet a combative midfield, where it is not about trying to build from the back, right? They won't even press you for you to bait the press. Then we needed to play someone like Endo in there. So I think in certain games, the game situation and the opponent quite suited having Endo in there instead of a player like Gravenberg, because I think in that first leg Premier League game against Newcastle, they completely crushed those 3 in the midfield, Joelinton, Tonali, and Guimaraes. They completely crushed Gravenberg. I remember there was one ball that went to him in the first half. I think it was Konate or Van Dijk who faced the ball into him with speed, and he tried to turn on the ball. And I think it was either Joelinton or Guimaraes who crashed him, and there was no foul given. Right, so he tried to do his usual turn on the ball, and because there was no press on the defense, they were all behind the midfield line. Right, so there was no way you could turn and have space. So in those games, I think Endo should have come in. In the games where he did come in, Endo, he did well. In certain games where we gave him maybe 5 minutes to close the game off, at times he came in to play in defense. I think there was even a game where he came in to play at right back, and then in that same game he went to the midfield. In that same game he played in the central defense. So he was such a useful player for certain periods in games, but I do think that he should have given more. He should have been given more chances to play in the season, and that would have even given Gravenberch the chance to get some rest in that crunch period of the season, because I think he was getting a bit tired, Gravenberch, and Endo was there to relieve some of the pressure on him.